Hello there everybody and welcome back to the channel where we get to talk about nature while playing games. My name is Will the Exhausted Ecologist, or WE for short. This is An Ecologist Plays and we are back in Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. And as you can see, we can fly. This is of course a Banshee or Mountain Ikran, which is an amazing creature, so we're going to be having a look at it in a moment. Just going to find a nice little spot for where the sun is shining properly. And what better place than right on top of one of these floating islands. Now, not to get too technical, but these floating islands could actually exist if you have the perfect environment. Now, first of all, these outcrops are extremely rich in that amazing mineral in the Avatar universe, unobtainium. And unobtainium is a superconductor. Now, superconductors will levitate above a very strong magnetic field. And if we have a look, there is Polyphemus, the big planet that the moon of Pandora is revolving around. And that planet, Polyphemus, has an extremely strong magnetosphere, as a whole bunch of stingbats just kind of pop into existence here. And that magnetosphere, along with the revolution of the moon of Pandora around its axis, creates certain pockets with a very strong magnetic field. And because of those pockets of strong magnetic field, along with the unobtainium in these little outcrops here, they actually break loose and levitate. They're not flying, they are really floating above the surface. They won't float off into the distance, but they're just floating at a certain height above these cells of very, very strong magnetic fields, which is, an interesting, plausible explanation for why we have floating mountains on the moon of Pandora. It's plausible. Now, something I enjoy about the movies and the game would be the Ikran, the Banshee over here. And this is such an amazing creature. It's very, very reptilian in appearance. However, it doesn't have the scales we typically see in earthen reptiles. And if we take a good look at its skin here, it really does look more like an amphibian skin than a reptile skin. Very, very smooth. Doesn't appear to have any poison glands like we often have with amphibians, and of course it has wings, which we don't have with amphibians on Earth. There's a thing called the flying frog, but that frog just jumps out of trees and it has webbing between its toes that it then uses as a little parachute. It can't fly, it just kind of falls with style. Now, what we also have are these spiracles, and we see that in all the vertebrates here on Pandora. They've got these breathing holes. Amazing that it actually opens and closes as this creature breathes. And as it breathes, you can actually see its chest expanding as well, as the muscles contract and relax to result in the chest expanding and contracting. So it does have lungs, it seems. So the spiracles, the openings here that lead into the lungs of the Ikran and all the other creatures we see on Pandora. Now, if we look at the wings of the Ikran here, it's very, very interesting. The structure is something like a bat's, which is not something I expected. Now, in the main body of the wing, there appear to be two bones here and here, providing the structure of the main wing body. Then it terminates in a 5-fingered hand, which is interesting since the Na'vi only have 4 fingers, not 5. But the Banshees over here, the Ikrans, appear to have 5 fingers. One, of course, extending in the front here, ending in a claw over there, most likely used to grip onto surfaces, especially vertical rock faces, so they can land there and take off from there. And then 4, here, 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 and here, giving strength and structure to these wing membranes. 3 membranes in the front and then the main sheath at the back here. And then, of course, it also has a similar but very different appearance in the back here, with 2 digits, one for the claw in the front, like we had in the front wings, and then one just providing some rigidity to the back wing membrane. The front wing is used for propulsion, using it for powered flight, and the hind wing most likely will be used to actually help change direction, as we can see here. And also, of course, to help the Ikran hover in place. Very, very, very interesting creatures. Of course, they are aerial predators, well designed for taking down prey like stingbats and all kinds of things in the air here, but they can also dive down, as we can do here. And then with them having big but still relatively small wingspans, they can also dive and fly among the big trees we have in the forest. So in open niche areas like this, they can actually take down smaller prey like the hexapedes that we also have in the game. Also quite fast, but as soon as it starts getting dense, they do battle to actually fly amongst the dense trees. So they're more in the open areas. Oh, something just exploded. Huh. Oh, it's these pom-pom trees. Okay, right. So they can fly in the more open areas of the forest, but they really are in their element in the sky, where they can very easily hunt down things like these stingbats here and snatch them out of the sky and then feed on them. Now, the reason I initially landed over here, apart from looking at the Ikran and the floating mountains, is that there is, in fact, a Taju sapling here somewhere. And you can see all these little butterflies congregating around it, and here it is. As we come closer, it opens up and we get a skill point for our trouble with finding it. Speaking of skill points, we can also spec some into the rider here, where first of all we get the skill to do a barrel roll, but secondly we can do aerial fishing, which is a nice way of actually replenishing our Ikran's energy. So now what we can do is what we call skimming, which is a strategy used by some birds, at least. Not many. There aren't many birds that will use skimming for catching fish, but it is a valid strategy if you are a skimmer. You know, very, very original name. So let's just find a body of water. As you can see, as we are flying faster, we are first using normal energy at the top blue-green bar there. And then, if we are just gliding, we are using some of the purple energy, which is the Ikran's actual energy. We're using that to replenish the green bar there at the top. Then, if we want to replenish our purple bar, what we can now do is we can fly low over the surface. Technically, it should be extending its lower jaw into the water, but as we are flying across the surface here, it snatches a fish from the water surface. So, it's a strategy used by the skimmers, by a certain group of birds. So those birds, the skimmers, will have a lower jaw that is actually longer than its upper jaw, and it will put that in the water and fly low across the surface like we are doing now. And then whenever it touches a fish, it will slam its jaw shut, like this Ikran was doing there. And the problem is sometimes you're flying at a relatively high speed and not actually snatching up a fish, but instead you are breaking your lower jaw on a branch or a rock that is submerged below the surface. And if you break your lower jaw, you can no longer skim. And the skimmers are specialized to feed like that. So if they do break their lower jaw in a skimming accident, then they can no longer feed and they will die. They will starve to death. So not great if you are that specialized. As the old saying goes, jack of all trades, master of none, still better than master of one. And the skimmers are masters of that one method of catching food. And if they can no longer catch food that way, they will die. But now that we can actually fly around with our Ikran, the world is our oyster, and we can very, very easily reach a variety of places, like this little mountain top over here, where I think there is a bellsprig or another Taju sapling. There we go. And we can now finally reach this. But the tail, of course, very, very long, ending in that tuft at the tip there, so terminating in that tuft there. That is, of course, used for steering also. As we bank to the left and right, it also sways to the sides, just trying to stabilize us as we are moving around. And also, I believe, if we start hovering, that does also provide some drag to actually slow us down, especially when we're coming in for a landing. So the whole structure here of the Ikran, really great for aerial maneuverability, especially as we start heading into more jungle areas. At least it provides some maneuverability amongst the trees here. Unlike the Great Leonopteryx, which we saw in the first movie, when Jake and Natiri were flying with their Ikrans into the dense forests, the Great Leonopteryx, with its massive wingspan, could not enter the dense jungle. They were not designed for flight in the dense jungles. And when we have birds of prey, for example, goshawks or cuckoo hawks in South Africa at least, or even things like massive eagles, like the crowned eagles, they have surprisingly small wingspans. And that is to allow them to actually maneuver amongst the dense canopy of the trees in the forest. Now, in most cases, jumping off ledges would be terrifying. Now it becomes a bit more fun, because we can call our Ikran and actually just dive around with that. And one more thing we can now do is gain access to resources we otherwise wouldn't have been able to get. Like, for example, sky rock moss, so called because it's a type of moss that grows on the sky rocks. And we've got some fine quality, and we also have some superior quality. Now, it's best harvested in the rain, which we don't have at the moment, but we are going to go for the superior quality here in any case. Just going to harvest it to the right, Oh, it apparently is drizzling. Oh, marvelous. So we've got a great one there. Now, apparently, I don't think we can actually get exquisite quality yet. Because if we go into world knowledge here, it says that, first of all, with the global pollution going down, we now have bellsprigs popping up. So before we actually took down any of the RDA facilities, bellsprigs weren't all over the place. There were just a few, I think. And then, with us reclaiming even more, we now also have dawn fruit popping up. But if we now go and clear more RDA facilities, we should have exquisite quality material becoming more common. Because if you want to find exquisite quality resources, you need to find the best spots for them, and the Hunter's Guide is your friend. If you go into material and we're looking for moss, for example, we look for sky rock moss. It says that you can find them on floating mountains, and the rarer sky rock moss, so the superior and exquisite qualities, you'll find in the floating mountains above the Shadowwood in the southwest of the Kinglor forest, and that is where we are. We're above the Shadowwood in the Kinglor forest right up here. So a great spot to come and find them, but unfortunately, because the pollution levels are still too high, we don't have exquisite materials really spawning. And the same with the animals. As we have less and less air pollution, the mature animals also start popping up, and you can get exquisite quality. You can get the mature hexapedes and those types of creatures spawning in the world. And they become more common also. So just a little tip if you are looking for exquisite quality resources. And one last thing we can of course do is to just go whee, and we just jump down, because this is a lot of fun. We just free falling, and then we wait until the absolute last moment, because we fear nothing, and then we call Temek over here. Now, since we do have to carry on with the story a bit, we're just going to go meet Tua, and then we'll be taking down some of the balloons in the area. And as we are making our way there, I will of course also be taking down the RDA facilities, but I'll be doing most of that off screen, since we are just going to be trying to reduce the air pollution levels here on Pandora. So a lot of that will be happening off screen. We're just going to be progressing the main storyline here, and then also just talking about the animals and plants that we encounter. And as always, if you have any questions or comments, do please drop it down in the comments below, and I'll be happy to answer to the best of my ability. And I believe that is a Tua right over there. Right, now our next quest is to go and take down some of these balloons that are all over the place. You can see some in the distance over there. Now, however, in order to really be able to take down helicopters, we're going to need a bit better heavy bow. So I will be crafting that off screen, and for that we need a nice root and a bast fiber, which we can find, I believe, right over there. I believe there should be some nice canopy roots, as well as the Kinglor Soul's Delight in that area over there. So if I go there, I may be able to obtain the material to do that. Now, looking around, we do have some superior quality canopy roots right over here. There are quite a few in the area, but no exquisite material yet, unfortunately. Now, these canopy roots we actually have here appear to be what we call aerial roots. So basically roots that are not growing in the soil. In fact, they are growing, in the air, hence the name aerial roots. And they don't appear to actually come from this original tree. These may in fact be strangler fig roots. So it seems, as you can see from this tree around here, that there are a whole bunch of roots wrapped around it, and some thicker ones also in here. It's quite possible that in these trees, as I just dropped down, it's quite possible that in these trees there are in fact strangler figs that are growing. They germinated up in the canopy, they've been growing down, and now that they've actually reached the soil level here, some of these roots are thickening. Some of the other ones are still trying to grow down, like you can see here. Some aerial roots growing down, trying to reach the soil. When they do, they're also going to thicken, and eventually this tree that they're growing around will die, as it is being strangled to death and can no longer widen, no longer grow any thicker. And as a result, they will be constricted and die, as we almost died due to all the plants trying to kill us. There were some exploding gas pods here. There are blistering roots over here, which are very, very hot. I believe these are blistering roots. Yeah, there we go. There goes our health. Okay, so don't stand on the very, very, very hot roots. Generally, good advice in life. Interesting, it seems the Viperwolves are in fact attacking and being attacked by the Scarab Crawlers over there. And, oh, there we go. There are also some humans attacking everything, so let's just get rid of the humans. We don't like the humans. The RDA must die. Leave the creatures, thank you. So, of course, being two predators, they are, well, although the crawlers here, the Scarab Crawlers, can in fact be scavengers also, they are still predatory. And like hyenas and lions, they don't get along very well. And in fact, it seems that the crawlers have mostly won, mostly wiped out the Viperwolves. No surprise there, the Viperwolves really not very well defended. The Scarab Crawlers, on the other hand, they are very, very well defended. They've got their hard shells, which will protect them against a lot of damage. So very often what you will find is that predators don't get along, especially if they share the same food source. And in this case, they both will be feeding on hexapedes and young sturmbeast and those types of creatures. So it really is no surprise that the one group was attacking the other group. They will try to take one another out. Alright, and we've actually managed to find what we're looking for, which is the Kinglor Forest Soul's Delight. And this, if we use it in our weapons, will actually give us a 5% boost against the RDA soldiers that we are fighting. So that's going to be a nice little advantage. However, we do have some predators in the area, and I believe those are feral thanators, which I am not keen on trying to take down. Let's see, our heavy bow. Oh, okay, our feral thanators here are no match for our current heavy bow. We do have some purple quality. We've got some superior bast fibers there. Okay, let's quickly fly down and go get this, because they are... Oh, no, wait, we are under attack. Haha, of course. No, stop it. There we go. One down. Oh, two more over there. Oh, and some Viperwolves also. This is not a fun place to be. So let's just quickly run in here and gather this one. Okay, harvested during dry conditions. And pristine. And we just got a little bit of a jolt of a shock there. A little jolt of electricity. There is, however, a whole pack of feral Viperwolves. And apparently they have no kuru, or that ponytail. Okay, so Hajir says this is very, very strange. Hajir in back at HQ, he says it's very strange and we need to go talk to him. So this then would be Calamari phylum elegans, the elegant squid-like plant, literally what that name translates to. And it is the Kinglor Forest Soul's Delight. And you can see it's called the Calamari phylum because the leaves over here, kind of like leaves actually, they are like tentacles of a squid. So yeah, quite fun creature. Now this would most likely also be a planimal, so a plant animal, because it is able to create some kind of electric shock. And it most likely does that by also pumping, like we have with electric eels, pumping ions, especially potassium, I believe it is, pumping it across a cell membrane to result in a charge actually forming. And that is a nice defense mechanism so that things don't come and eat them. Now we've collected the bast fiber, which interestingly enough seemed to be growing from a pod or a fruit hanging on the side of the tree here. Now bast is actually the inside bark fibers of a plant. So it's very, very strange that we actually collected that in the pod there. I actually would have expected us to rather have gotten that from the bark, actually the stem of that Kinglor Forest Soul's Delight. Or that Calamari phylum. But interestingly enough, we got it from the pod. So of course, a lot of plants don't want to be eaten. Some plants do respond very, very well to being defoliated or having their leaves removed. Grasses, for example, are great at responding to defoliation. But a lot of plants really don't want to be eaten. And in order to prevent them from being eaten, they will have all kinds of defense mechanisms. The mermaid's tail, for example, is that plant that in our previous episode flung us across some of the chasms, and that is defense mechanism. You touch it and it triggers a response to let the tail whip you into the air and woof, off you go, before you even have a chance to actually take a bite from the plant. Other plants like the exploding pom-pom trees, which are all over the place that we actually flew into earlier, they will of course explode. And that's a defense mechanism. It scares all kinds of predators away, or plant predators away, so herbivores basically. And it also at the same time damages anything that is too close to it. So it's a nice defense mechanism. And the Kinglor Forest Soul's Delight will then just try to give you a nice jolt of electricity to try and get you to stay away from them. Now that we are here at the Navi camp here, we can also create Kitangi's Heavy Bow, which is going to be really great. It should be able to do a lot more damage than our current bow. In fact, yeah, 25 more damage. This is going to be marvelous. So let's just quickly craft that one up. And now we should be able to deal with all the helicopters in the area. And we are going to be doing that next time. So thank you very much everyone for joining me on our little adventure. If you enjoyed it, please do give it a like and pop any questions you have down below. And then I will see you all next time. And until then, stay safe everyone. I'll see you guys soon. Bye.